Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, our Leaders for Good podcast with Tia Meredith. My name is Sarah, and this is my brother.
I'm Joshua of Sociantify, and we're here today to introduce Tia Meredith.
All right, so before we begin and introduce you to this fabulous person, I'm just going to do a quick bio. So Tia Meredith is a writer, online course consultant, and book writing coach. Originally from the Midwest, she was a senior copywriter at Hay House Publishing, is on the board of directors for San Diego Writers, Inc., and has a published children's picture book, Leonidas and the Dolphin. She also has another published book. She has spent 20 years in marketing, but tends to spend her time teaching online courses on various types of storytelling and facilitating creative writing groups. For more information, to see what Tia is up to, you can visit her website at www.tiameredith.com, or you can follow her on IG at Tia Meredith Writer. So Tia, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time.
I'm so happy to be here. No, I'm happy to be here. And, I always love chatting with you. So I'm like, what we going to talk about? I'm here. Like, whatever it is.
I love it. I love it. Yes, today is totally going to be free flow, but it's going to be awesome. You're such a fascinating, amazing person. I'm so excited to have you on, and feel so blessed.
I'm excited.
So
excited to be here and meet your brother. I hadn't gotten to meet him before, so just double coolness. You know what I mean? Just double coolness.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Awesome.
So to dive right into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tia, and let people know what you do, where you came from, because I'm pretty sure some people listening don't know who you are.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would be surprised. How about that? It's not like I've got like this grandiose name, but Sarah did a really good job of just kind of explaining kind of my career path per se. I think to know who I am as a person is to understand that I did grow up in the Midwest. I was born and raised in St. Joseph, Missouri. I'm biracial. And I lived there and I did what everybody does in that dream. You kind of grow up and it's like, oh, you're supposed to go to college. So I did that. You get married. Okay, I did that. You buy the house, all that stuff, and hated it all. And wound up leaving everything. And I left and I moved to Seattle. I was still working for the government at that time. I always call it the before curl and after curl times. So this is my version of BC, is before curl when I had straight hair and all of this. And I moved to Seattle, and then that's when I kind of hit rock bottom and decided, okay, I'm going to go to DC. Like, that's where you go on the career path, because I'm going to be at the top of this political, government ladder. And I just felt so empty and alone, and I'm making all this money. My family is like, I didn't come from any money. And I left and I went to Greece, and I wound up living there for a year. And so that's really where my life changed. When I became my own leader, in a way, it was like everybody's telling me to do one thing. And I'm like, you know what? This is what my heart wants me to do. And so I lived in Greece for a year. I worked as a travel agent, which was I had no skill set for, but apparently I could sell some vacations if I'm put on the phone. And I wound up coming back and living in Chicago with my brother for a time. And then, time just goes on. I wound up in San Diego. And so that's kind of what I just think that more gives you a flavor for who I am as a person than maybe just what I tend to do for a living. So thanks for allowing me to share that. Yeah.
That's cool. I love that. So now that we've learned a little bit about yourself, can you tell us what is one of your greatest achievements that you had, particularly as an entrepreneur and as a publisher?
I think my greatest accomplishment as an entrepreneur was finally going into the black. Like, it was that moment, because I was at the bottom for so long, just operating in the red, and it's so exhausting. It was like 4 years of just being broke. And I had this whole other life of working for corporate where I didn't know what it was like to sell things in my home to pay my rent. I mean, those are just conversations I don't think enough entrepreneurs have, of what you actually have to do to make this bad boy work. Um, so that really was it. And there's nothing sexy about it. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is a year that it's like I'm in the black. And then all of a sudden I just kind of exploded, and I wound up getting a very, very large contract that I have now, where I work as a digital marketing director for a publishing house, but I'm still on my own terms. I'm still an independent contractor. I'm still an entrepreneur. And I was able to leverage that because of this slog that I went through of years and years of just being at the bottom. So
Yeah.
that would be my biggest accomplishment for sure.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I know how difficult. I mean, Sarah and I, we've been entrepreneurs for years now, and we've definitely had our ups and downs where we've had successes and you're like raking in the dough, and then other times you're just not making anything, and all of it's just keeps going out, and you're going, why?
Exactly.
That's
And
awesome.
so,
Congrats on your, sorry, Josh, congrats on
yeah,
your huge contract.
yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm
absolutely.
very excited.
And I think it's important to honor those types of achievements because, I mean, those are the things that lift us up out of those dark moments where, which we'll touch on later on. But I think all of us have those dark moments as entrepreneurs, and especially when we go the route of being a leader and treading into new territories, it kind of comes par for the course where if you look at even just the hero's journey, there's always the dark path that you take, and through that you come to the light. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and you learn so much about yourself. You know, in order to step into leadership, you have to know your nooks and crannies, and you have to understand that and to pick a particular journey of being an entrepreneur means that you're willing to unearth some of the nastiest parts of yourself, because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was so insecure. Well, you
Yeah.
were. And so you figure it out, imposter syndrome, all of it. So it's a huge gift to hit all those dark corners. But I don't think you know that. I think you kind of have to be a little stupid about it. It's like you just have to be overconfident. Like, I'm not going to have to do that, but you will.
Yeah, with an air of naivete and
Yes.
going, okay, let's see what goes. Yeah, I love that. And so to continue with that idea, what's one thing that you've done in regarding to your work and your clients that you didn't expect? Like, what was a result that really surprised you?
I think, because I'm kind of split in two worlds, being an online course creator and consultant, and also the memoir side, the book writing side. And I think the surprising part on the memoir side is I thought I'm just helping people get this story out, that's just been deep inside, that they've been compelled. Some people, because they're using those books, for example, as a means of marketing and bringing things back to themselves because they want to be speakers and they want to, use that for workshops or what have you. But what surprised me about that was the healing that people went through, and that I was then being called to support them emotionally in that journey, because it is so vulnerable. And so I learned a lot about vulnerability and holding the space of that in respect of the art and the craft, no matter if it's just, a content creation that you're just going to learn to market. It's like anytime somebody starts to get into personal story or teaching memoir, they don't realize that there's going to be aspects of yourself that come to the surface that you get to deal with. But yeah, so that's the surprise.
Yeah. I know, well, and Sarah can relate to this too. Through our own personal journey, what we've tried doing is recollecting our story and writing it in a way that it fuels us moving forward. Kind of like almost creating like a life plan, but and a business plan too, if you want to think of it that way, where we go through our lives and we see where it doesn't fit into the direction we want to go, and we want to rewrite that story so it makes a contiguous story in a way. Yeah. That's
But
cool.
it's
I
such
love
a
that.
surprise to see it come out, right, the first time, because even in your mind, when you're a
Oh,
really positive
Yeah.
person, you're like, oh yeah, and then you start to see it and you're like, is this who I want to be? But you wouldn't
Yeah,
have known that had you not written it out. Yeah.
totally.
ooh, that's interesting. That sounds like there's going to be some surprises that come out of that for sure.
Oh yeah.
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 Hmm. Self-discovery. Cool.
And this next question is kind of a bit of a curveball, but I think it's going to be a fun one to ask. And it is, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Hold on, I'm having a volume issue. What did you
Uh,
say, Josh? I'm sorry.
Sure, I'll try and speak louder. So if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
The message is the mission.
Mm,
And because
Mm.
this has come up a lot lately as an artist, as an entrepreneur, it's not about me. And I think any of us who get called to service, which is what any product or service you put out is for other people, even
right.
if you had created it originally for yourself. But the minute that you are able to distance yourself and say, it's not about me, are you empowered to go fully all in with the courage that you need? So, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's cool. That's powerful.
Beautiful. That gave me shivers. Whew. Yeah, that was good.
That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another curveball. We like to change it up with our questions. So these ones are actually very different from our last episode, but I kind of am curious to see how they go, and I love experimenting with them. And actually, Sarah is the one who came up with this. Is if you could turn back time and talk to your 18 self, what would you tell her?
18-year-old self.
18-year-old.
Yeah. I think I would just tell her that it's going to be hard. I think I would tell her the truth. It's
Yeah.
going to be hard,
Mm-hmm.
but every time you listen to yourself, you'll go the best road that you could take. Like, I think that that's what's key, because I don't think I could have dodged things. I am a person who believes that what happens is for a reason. But I think I could have listened to myself more. And that's what I would want her to know, is to listen to herself.
Totally. I can
Beautiful
relate
to
to that.
trust herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I definitely feel that when I was younger, I encouraged myself to listen to my intuition, because I feel like there were so many times where I just ignored it, or I would try and push through something and it ended up backfiring, and I ended up ultimately having to listen to my intuition in the end anyways.
Yes. Yeah, totally. But like the gift is that is the gift, because even when you make that misstep and you don't listen to your intuition, it's a way to like affirm, yo, my intuition was right to begin with. So like, let's not do that again. So
Totally.
Oh yeah.
So after those two kind of random questions, I'm going to bring it back. And I want to ask you, what does being a leader for good mean to you?
being a leader for good means operating out of integrity
Mm,
and doing things for the whole. It's true leadership is the paving of the pathway for others. So it's this real illusion, I feel like, of I'm standing at a podium, I'm the one always talking. And leaders are truly people who need to be
Mhm.
in service and enjoy being in service, because we're just lifting everybody else, like just catapulting their behinds on above us. Like that's the truth. And that's being a leader for good.
I totally agree with that. And I think that's something that kind of gets missed sometimes. I mean, there are moments where leaders do take the forefront, say like Malcolm X or Martin Luther, those types of individuals where they lift up a whole group and society of people. But then many of the leaders that we don't see are ones that are kind of in the background and actually, like you said, put themselves below everyone else, and they kind of pave the path and do the dirty work, as you will.
Yeah.
And that I think is
It's a
important.
fine line.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to step to the front, but also know intuitively when to be in the back, because again, it's not about
Mm.
you. Like truly,
Mm.
I guess that's the thing I'm going to hammer in this conversation. It also because it relieves
Oh my God.
the pressure off of you when it's
Yeah.
not about you. Like,
Yes.
so anyway.
And
Yeah.
to bring it back to what you do, it almost makes sense for when you're publishing or helping someone write a memoir, that you do have to take a step back and you kind of have to guide the person, that they're the center of the attention. They're ultimately the hero of their own story. And you're helping them pave that pathway. And yeah, I think that's a beautiful analogy.
Thanks. It's a good. It's a goodie. That's what we're out here doing, y'all.
Yes, yes.
Totally.
You gave me a visualization when you said catapulting. All I saw was like a leader being like, come here, jump on here, yeah, get on here. And then like shooting the person to the other side. Okay, next, you know, like, let's save all of you, you know, like jump on. Okay, I'm going to release it and you're going to fly right over to the next side, you know, I'll meet you over there, but I got to gather everyone first.
Yeah.
That was totally like the visual that I saw. I'm like, it's a funny visual, but it's like really kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, leaders see the light in others. Like that's our job. Like if we're doing our job, it's because I see what's excellent and what's beautiful in you and what you do well, and I'm here to elevate what you do well.
Totally.
And I guess that's what you do through your memoirs, is you take the elements that people can highlight in their lives and then use that in creating a story to share with others, but then also give their life direction and meaning, even if there was already meaning and direction.
Yeah, and also helping them unearth what's hidden, like things that they don't think are important. You know, because it's so natural to who they are as a person, they skip over actually the most like delicious part of who they are. And so you have to be like, no, you're not skipping that just because you're used to it, you know.
And they're I'm sure probably trying to tuck it away embarrassingly and just going, no, let's not worry about that.
Yep. Get the tissues out. Get the tissues out. Might be a cry fest. You'll be all right though.
I can definitely relate to that, because there have been so many times in my life where something comes up and I'm embarrassed by it, or I just don't want to deal with it, either because it's uncomfortable or I just don't like it. And then when I actually sit with it, what's beautiful is it ends up turning into something that fuels me and ignites me within my life and gives me even greater purpose for what I'm doing now. Yeah.
That's so important. I'm so glad you said that. Listen, take notes, y'all. This
Love it.
So what's the biggest area related to your role, either with your courses or helping people with their memoirs, you're curious about, and why? And then also, to continue, what are some things you're researching as well right now after? If you need to reminder, just let me know.
Yeah, I need a repeat on the question, because I
Me
really
too.
want to.
That was a bit long.
I need to sit with it.
Okay, so
give me part one, friend. Give me part one.
Cool. So what's the biggest area you are curious about, and why?
I think I'm really curious about why they talk about they want to write a book, for example, or they want to do a thing, but they don't do the thing. Like, I'm just always really curious about that. Like, what does it take to insert the courage or to encourage you, or what is it that will help you take that leap? Like, I don't know, because I don't know if you've run into this or not, but most people that I'll talk to, and I say most loosely, they have a story to tell. They're always talking about, you know, or like spirit talk to them and they have a message. And so the next part of the conversation will be, well, have you written any of it down? Oh, no, but I don't. So I'm really curious how to bridge that gap, you know? So that's something I'm really curious about.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that, because I know many times in my life, being someone who's very creative, especially as a photographer, and I've tried writing my own book before, and I started, say, like the first chapter, and then I stopped, and that was 6 years ago. And so it's always fascinating to find out why people stop or why they don't even start in the beginning. I
Right.
think even just starting is an important step. And I'm glad that I started with the first chapter, and I know I'll come back to it. I just don't know when. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've hit it. This is a beautiful example of my curiosity. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure you're probably just like, can I just dive into that right now?
I know. I am not doing it. I have curtailed myself. Yes, I'm just
Awesome.
listening and answering.
And then the second part of the question was, what are some things that you're researching right now in your field?
I'm really into social listening right now. I'm doing a lot of research around that. I think to back in almost to the curiosity point we just talked about. Am I just missing it if I created something that I think people want to write a book, but they really don't? Maybe they just want to write an essay. So, yeah, I've just been looking up a lot of different websites and aspects that support social listening. So,
And I imagine that's particularly related to helping people write their memoirs.
both. It's writing books and it's also like what people are looking to learn for the online course side too. Like
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
but they tend to, it's a weird thing because they seem to be like two separate things, but they're really not because it's still a creation, right? An online course is still teaching, and then memoir is also teaching in the same way. So they're just kind of two different mediums to do it. So yeah, social listening has been just top on my list.
I love that. And I think that's an important time or a skill to develop, especially right now. I mean, considering all the things that have been happening, like, of course, COVID is the most obvious one, but even just before that, we had Black Lives Matter, that was really important, where I know even for myself, I had to take a step back and listen, and I ended up noticing I had my own racist tendencies, and I had to go, whoa, Josh, like, this isn't right.
Yeah,
And
nobody escaped that. Nobody escapes that. No matter what your skin color is, nobody escapes it. So. Sorry, everybody listening. We all got issues. All of it.
And I'm glad that I did that element of listening, because now, like we were even saying earlier, I know more about myself and I can rework that so it fits the story that I want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Critical.
With social listening and everything for you, Tia, you know, I'm kind of struggling with something of taking a leap. And I feel that we're moving it, like as we're moving into 2021, I'm seeing so many people asking, should I go for it? Should I just write that book, or should I just launch that business? Or like, there's no security anymore. I feel that we've lost our security, or the sense of security. And so like, we're waking up being like, well, what's the point? Or what was that life that I did? You know, the going to school, get a job, get a career. You know, where we took that leap a little bit sooner than maybe most have, but now everyone's wondering, why am I here? What's the point? Should I take this leap? So I wonder if like more and more people in 2021 will like just say, sorry, fuck it, and write that book. Or like, you know, I wonder if there's just a lot of fear or something around that. Because I'm facing fear with something that I want to launch. But I'm fearful because there's not that financial security. And what I was taught in that old world is to have that security first before going after the dream. And now we're in a new world where I'm seeing people are going for it no matter what. And I'm like, I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm, you know, there was a race and they're like, okay, now go. And then I'm like, what? Wait, did they blow the whistle? Like all these people are run ahead, right? But they all took the leap. And then you're wondering, being like, why am I not taking the leap? For me, it's that security part. So I wonder, like, if there's all this fear to write your book or to publish or to launch your dream, or
I think that fear, you hit on a big thing, friend, because, you know, fear is the ultimate like Buzz Killington of all time. Like it is the thing that comes up and rears its head and tells you all the ways that this is going to fail. And that's part of being human. There is no avoidance of fear. It winds up becoming, are you willing to look that fear in the face and say, I'm going to do it anyway? And life dishes different elements to you to show yourself that you have the courage to do the thing. So I think that that's where the point gets missed for many of us, is all the times if we go back in time and look at when we were courageous, and they're not large acts. And as we know, just being on the, being in the universe and being a spiritual being, like you get the little things are actually what catapult you more than those large acts of service or courage or anything else. It's that, like just when you cut your hair, that was a courageous thing. Like I had all this long, luscious hair and I said, forget it, I'm cutting all of it off. Like that is a moment to celebrate yourself, like especially as a woman, to say, I don't really care what the thought is one way or another, short or long hair. Like remember that in yourself when you're wondering, do I have the courage to take this leap? And it's like, yeah, I do. So
I just
exactly.
Hold on, just to pause for a sec here.
Okay.
Did you get a pop-up there, Sarah?
You don't need to pause. Yes.
Okay, I don't need to pause it. The recording's still going. I just got a pop-up.
No, you don't need to pause it. Tia, what I want to say is thank you for that, because I didn't celebrate it. I didn't think of it as a big thing. It was a big thing, though. I was terrified when I went in. It felt like I was going to go cliff jumping, which I'm also terrified of. And so, yeah, that was a really big thing. I've always had a ponytail all of my life. And then next thing you know, I'm like, get rid of the ponytail. And she's like, are you sure? Do you want to think about this? I'm like, what do you mean? Do I want to think about this? You don't think I'm going to look good with short hair, But I don't care. It's 2020. Literally, I've had enough. Just cut it all off,
But that translates to business. Yeah, it translates to
Mm-hmm.
business, though, for leaders and entrepreneurs. And these are the things that define you truly. And to know that, like, once you cut your hair, it's just hair. To go into business, it's just a business. And if you can remove that, my entire identity is tied to a thing. This is the mistake. My identity is tied to a thing. That's where all that crippling fear comes in. And I'm going to make a mistake. Well, you're going to. So I'm just going to go ahead and help you out. There's going to be a lot, but every last one of them has a gift for you. So is it really a mistake? No, that's just a language that we'll use because it's relatable.
Yeah. And that's actually touching on a really great point. I think there is, particularly from what I was taught, and it sounds like it's very integrated into our society, where mistakes are almost frowned upon and they're discouraged. I mean, there is a shifting, like I'm seeing people celebrating mistakes, and I think there's a danger to that as well, because I like the perspective of more honoring my mistakes, because they're great points of lesson, but I don't want to celebrate them, because I don't want myself to be focused on drawing towards a mistake rather than just using them to pivot me to success and then celebrating that success instead, if that makes sense. And I think
totally.
That's a great point that you bring up, is being okay with the failures or the mistakes that we make, and understanding that actually they will help us grow and get closer to our success.
It's just a thing. Like it really is that neutrality of, it's a thing that happens. And, I don't mean to minimize things, because it's impossible in the moment when it's occurring, like to just, it's just a thing. Like, that's not reality. But the more that we can get there, we've won, and however that is for us, just like what you were saying, that's what's important, is that you get the nugget you need, however you need it, and the phrasing that works best for you.
Love that. Also, I don't know if you heard the clicking in the background, but that's just my bunnies drinking water right now.
Aww. Yay, bunnies.
So if anyone's listening, I've got two adorable bunnies just chilling in my place. So.
I'm just grateful my pug is not anywhere nearby, because usually she's snoring, and you would have had this low drum of like, and is somebody bored?
Yeah.
That's my pug.
Adorable. I love animals.
Hmm.
So next question. Um, so we've kind of touched in a bunch of different areas of your business, but I'm curious, what best motivates you, and how have your entrepreneurial motivations, there we go, say that, changed since you started? So yeah, what best motivates you, and how have your motivations changed since you first started?
Hmm.
What I wanted when I started this like quest, Sarah knows I don't really like journey. I'm a quest person because I sound more fun. Was just freedom. Like
Mm,
I just wanted to do what I want, when I wanted, with whoever I wanted to do it with. Like that was always the goal. And I think as I went along the road, the freedom was true and it's part of it, but it really became more about the mission and more about applying the skills and talents that I have to better serve, my community, my clients, the world. Like, it's not that I wasn't an altruistic person to begin with, but I mean, entrepreneurship is kind of a selfish journey. Like, it's like I'm just trying to chill and do my own thing. So, but it's not sustainable, I don't feel like, if you don't have a love deep down for something beyond your immediate gratification. So that's what it became. It morphed into other people
I love that.
caring.
And
Yeah.
for me in particular, I love businesses, and so I've spent a lot of my life studying businesses. And the businesses that excite me the most, in particular now, are the ones that have that kind of mentality or philosophy that they've incorporated, where they want to give back, and it's more about that mission that they've committed to than it is about, say, the bottom line, the profit that they make, or the success that they have.
Yeah. Because that money comes.
Oh
Like
yeah,
when you're doing what you do well, the money always comes. That's the wild part. It's not, it's not the other way
Mhm.
around.
totally. And I do want to highlight this because I think oftentimes people miss this point, that during this journey of doing an altruistic mission, or having a mission in particular, does not mean that you're going to be perfect. And to tie in our discussion of the mistakes, it's like mistakes happen, but we can use those to further harness our mission and get stronger in that as well.
Oh yeah, because there's pivot points. Like
Yeah.
I would like every entrepreneur to line up and say, are you doing the same thing you were doing when you first launched your business?
Yeah.
Because we all know the answer. It's not. You think that this is what you came to do. Like I originally started off doing 100% email marketing. Like that was my jam. That's how I knew how to, and I wrote video scripts like for marketing material. And I have a skill set for that. But it's like you to look at that then and then what I've evolved into. Yes, there's these kind of relation, the skill and the talent, the under that piece is there, but it took a long time for me to go, oh, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Totally. Totally. I can definitely relate to that.
yeah, and it took those mistakes. Sometimes it was mistakes and really bad clients. It was like this nightmare and it made you question and go dark night of
Yeah.
soul. And you're like, you know
So
what? It's because this is not what I need to be doing. This does
No.
not fill me.
Yeah.
and
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 this is
thank
not how I'm going to serve people.
exactly, and thank goodness for those awful like nightmare clients, because like it could have been like some that were like covert nightmare or whatever, like sort of nice, but then like but it just was confusing and you weren't sure, you like had this love hate thing with them. But like those nightmare ones, they really set you on the right path.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's so
So
true, because being a photographer, I've had some pretty nightmarish customers. Some where it's like I do a free photo shoot and they just turn out to be a complete nightmare and expect everything. And it's like, well, I'm doing this as a courtesy to you. What do
Oh
you
my
expect?
goodness. Like you hit such a huge button here with like art and like things for free. That is always the recipe for hot mess. Like you
Yeah,
just better know. Like I don't know what your coping mechanism is, but you better get it ready because you're gonna need it, whatever it
oh my
is.
goodness.
totally, totally.
Oh man.
And kind of continue on the motivation, I'm curious, what inspires you and helps you generate new ideas for work?
I actually have a I have a very important meditation practice. And I
Right?
don't
Mm.
say that like lightly or in this like new age kind of way. It's like every morning, the first thing that I do is have silence, like with myself,
I love that.
what's going on with me. And I do a lot of like writing to myself, like what do I want to know? How am I really feeling? And in those spaces are
Mm.
where all these ideas come from. It's that I gave that time to myself the first part of the day. So I know that's challenging for a lot of people. A lot of people get triggered by meditation, but it's like meditation can be really long walks. It can be
Mm,
whatever lets your mind relax so that you can allow inspiration to flow. So that's how I jam.
totally. I love that. And I've had moments where I would meditate and other times where I wouldn't. And I've noticed every time I set time to literally do nothing or an activity where I can turn my mind off, it makes such a difference. Say, like you mentioned, going for walks, that actually has been such a huge creative source for me. It's unbelievable. And it's like, it's walking. I'm just moving one foot in front of the other.
But it is, it's a walking meditation because it gives your mind something to do. So your
Yeah.
mind's like one foot front of the other and repeat,
Yeah.
repeat, which loves. And then I know some people, I try not to take my phone because again, I don't want to be distracted and like in that
Mm.
space. So I got to check social media. So I bought like a really old school, like little recorder that you can just stick into your laptop. And
Cool.
so if I have something that comes into my mind, I can just push the button, hit record, and I can, have it transcribed later. So
Mm.
just sharing that with your audience of like, don't you need to have that time to yourself. So whatever that means for you and to support that, even if it's an old school recorder.
Yeah,
Cool.
totally. And do you have a daily routine for yourself as an entrepreneur? I noticed you hinted at in the morning you do a meditation, but do you have other things that you've set in place where it helps you be creative and be inspired for the kind of work you do?
It is so, it is this. I get up in the morning, I do, my meditation, my writing. I have a very set kind of things that I do in the morning. So there's that. Then I walk my dog, because pugs need walks too. But sometime during the day, I need to do something creative that has nothing to do with anything. So I've recently started sketching, and it's not for anybody else. It's not going up on Etsy because Lord knows we get in this entrepreneur mind. We're like, we can turn this into a profit. No, you can't. Just sketch in this book. And I started like coloring with oil pastels, and I have podcasts that I listen to. So that's something I do every day. I listen to something auditory in an auditory way because I receive information that way really well. So whether that's a book, or a podcast, and I'm doing some kind of artistic kind of like sketching. So these are things that seem to have nothing to do with my work, but that's what fills me to have that creative impetus to then produce for my clients.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. And I'm noticing that's becoming more important into my life as I'm getting more organized and not just my thoughts, but then how I want to create, having those moments where I can do things like right now, what I want to get is a synthesizer that I can plug into my computer and just start
Mm.
fiddling around with the buttons and try and create my own music because I just noticed there's this desire inside of me. Even if there is no end to it, I just feel like I want to create music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to just for us as entrepreneurs to break away from the idea of everything we do needs to become a thing. It needs to become a
Mm.
product or service. And
Oh.
it's this beautiful aspect of who we are and why we do what we do, but it can also be that flip side of a detriment of like, when are we going to enjoy our lives? And play is so instrumental to that. So it's like whatever play looks like for you. And I love that you got a synthesizer. That sounds fun, fun, fun.
By the way, I'm curious because a lot of these ideas sound very familiar to a book that Sarah actually introduced me to called The Artist Way. And,
Josh, it was Tia.
So it was Tia.
Tia gave me the recommendation. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense. So for anyone that is listening, if you've never heard of The Artist Way, I recommend going and checking it out because a lot of these ideas that you're hearing today are within that book.
Also, Joshua, Tia, you were a facilitator, right? An Artist Way facilitator, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Groups.
Yeah, I used to run groups from time to time. It's so fun to watch people creatively explore and expand. And it's always funny is, you know, your community, if they explore it, they have the morning pages and then the artist dates. And it's always interesting to see who leans on which side. So as a writer, I love the morning pages, but the playing is hard. So I've really leaned into that of what brings joy to the little child in me. And it is just, you know, a pencil and like this white paper that's just for me. And it's thrift shopping. Like I love going thrift shopping because I feel super wealthy with like $5 in my pocket. And, you know, it's just, but that's little kid me that's what I need. But it is that indirect fuel to your business because you're filled up.
Yeah. Well, and I would even say it goes beyond our business. It's fuel for us. Like I've noticed since I started doing my artist dates and I've kind of been slacking off on my morning pages because I'm the opposite. I find it easier to be creative than it is to write. But
yep, people lean one way or the other. It's like, which side are you on? Yep.
And I think I've noticed I have a lot more fervor and inspiration when it comes to my life. And even business aside, after I did that, I had a long period where I just did personal things because I knew I needed to recover my mindset around how I worked because I had an unhealthy, hardworking, overworking type mentality where work needed to be hard. And now it's like, no, work needs to be play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's massive. Thank you, Julia Cameron and the Artist Way.
Totally. Is there any particular person in your life or someone that you've experienced, even thinking of Julia Cameron, that you use as inspiration for what you do?
I don't know if I particularly... I think everything kind of comes in these ebbs and flows. You know, there's like the artist will kind of show up and it's like, this is what I need right now. So I can't say that there's a big driving force. You know, I think Julia Cameron is important for a lot of people and she's become important from time to time for me. But yeah, I don't really, it kind of just depends. Like Prince was an inspiration for a while. Like, you know, it was just, it's awesome. Whatever I need to have that like expansion. I just rediscovered Rudolf Steiner, who wrote a book in 1904 and it's a metaphysics book. And so I'm really just like, who is this person? What are we talking about here? But I feel very inspired in that way. So I don't mean to be flippant about it. It's just, it really changes depending on what I need in that moment.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. I mean, throughout my life, I have had some significant figures that stood as one, but now I'm finding it's more similar to you, where I'm in certain moments in my life where one individual might suit that circumstance, but then someone else is better in another area. One example for me is actually the author of, oh no, I'm having a mental blank, Campbell. He wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Sorry?
Joseph Campbell?
There we are, yeah. I showed my sister this book, and he's a gentleman who wrote basically the book around myths and how they're connected to religions and the hero's journey. And so right now for me, I am super fascinated on the hero's journey and how it feeds into curiosity and then also in our own personal lives, how we use myths as a way to give us purpose and meaning through the lives we live.
Mm-hmm. Women Who Run with Wolves would be
Ooh,
like
that one's so
the
good.
divine feminine side of that. Yeah.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, could you send that to me? I would love to read that book. I've had it read.
Josh, we have it. We've got like every page marked, and it's like a mess, but
Yes.
it's a really great book. I haven't read it in a long time. I've been meaning to, so thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm loving all these different recommendations that we're having. That's cool. So we've talked a lot about different issues or different topics around what you do, what you're loving, and I wanted to throw this back and ask if there's anything that we can do for you today to help. Is there anything that you're looking for support in, or something of that sort?
I mean, I think that I just deeply appreciate the conversation, and I always appreciate anyone asking to share a platform. I think it's very challenging as a person of color to be asked to be on things that we're out here doing things that matter. And so, you know, anytime that you come across folks who are interested in writing memoir, teaching memoir, that's a genre, teaching memoir. Let me not like sound like two different things. And then like, especially in spiritual kind of circles, because I did work for Hay House. That's kind of like my jam. And those folks tend to feel pretty alienated. Like they're, you know, if they had an enlightenment moment and they're like, no one understands me. Yes, they do, boo. People do understand you. And I'm one of them. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Just that my name continue in the circulation of folks that you recommend. So I deeply appreciate that.
Well, and we'll also share for anyone that's listening today, any links to your course and where they can find you, your social media and such. So if you have been listening and you love what Tia's doing right now, feel free to check it out. We deeply encourage it because we love supporting people. And Sarah has something to say.
I have one more question for you, Tia. What are you working on right now?
Yes.
So I've really been on this deep dive of exploring prose poetry. It's not something I've allowed myself to do. Like it's like the secret sensitivity, and like I have to get through beliefs about what people think of poets. So I've been exploring that a lot right now. And so that's coming out on Instagram as 3 thoughts. So I try to put them out in a genuine way, meaning, you know, I'd like to do them daily, but sometimes I don't have anything that I really want to share on a daily basis. But that's something I'm really working on. And in the background, I was asked to do the anthology for San Diego Writers Inc. So I'm currently, I mean, just neck deep in writing, trying to put together a book. So it'll be the first book that I've edited. Not only just like I've had to source it in a way, and then also put it into a collection that's coherent and edit it. So I'm really proud of that. It won't come out until next year, but I'm in there.
Yeah. Please let us know when it comes out, and we'll gladly share it with our guests or our audience.
I would love that. Thank you.
That's awesome, Tia. I'm so excited for you. It sounds like there's so many amazing things happening right now, and that you're going with the flow of things. And I mean, 2020 and 2021 is coming, and who the hell knows what's going to happen there. So
yeah,
I love
it. I think you pointed to that though, Sarah, that it's like, it is that opportunity of like, look how unsafe this has been, right? Like all security is wiped away. So what is it that you really want to do? There has never been a better time to do the thing that you want to do. What the hell do you have to lose? What? Like you can just look around and watch everything is like crumble to the bottom. There's nothing to lose. Just go for it.
Yeah.
So true. So true. It's so interesting too, like just like the light, like I had a thought the other day. I was like, there's so much darkness on earth right now, because sometimes with what's happening in the world, you can go to a really dark place and you're like, oh, and I'm very empathetic and I'm like, I can't handle the pain, you know? And then a thought came to my mind, but there's also so much light right now in the world, because without light, then we wouldn't be shown the truth of what's happening. Like all the structures are crumbling. There's all the truth, all this stuff, transparency is coming out. And it wouldn't be shown if there was no light. So there's a lot of light. Just something that made me feel a little bit better over all the darkness that's happening right now. But with that, like you said, everything's crumbling and there's no security. Was there ever security? Security is an illusion, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So what were we waiting for? And that's the thing. What are you waiting for, the audience? What are we waiting for?
Yeah, this is the call, and it's always the time to answer the call. And, you know, Mr. Rogers, I don't know how cool that is in Canada, but like Mr. Rogers is the jam here in the US. And I grew up watching him, and just a beautiful, beautiful human being. And he always said, look for the helpers. And that will always give you the light. There are all of us out here that are really trying to help and do and act in goodness. And that will always bring you back to the position of I can. And so, and I will help the other helpers too. Yeah, I can and I will.
I love that.
It's beautiful.
Thanks, friends.
My pleasure.
Love it.
So is there anything that we may have missed today, or something that you want to touch on or ask us or our audience before we end the call today?
I think I would like to ask your audience for them to, how can they support other entrepreneurs? You know, how can they support micro businesses? How can you go on Etsy and like hang out and help your people? A girlfriend of mine launched a t-shirt line, for example. I was like one of the first people to buy her t-shirts. Like, I don't even care if they're in demo form. Like, the fact that I went to black, right, in my company meant I could do these things. And so that's the thing I would ask your audience. How can we support, especially micro businesses, not even mid-size, our little tiny homies that are out here just trying to get to that next level, you know?
Absolutely.
I think that's a great thing to point out, because lately, and particularly because of COVID, I've been reanalyzing all of my money spending habits, because I used to buy from Amazon, I'd buy from big box stores, and finally I was fed up and I was going, wait, who am I really helping in this situation? Am I helping the family that lives next door to me and is a part of my community, or am I helping someone in a completely different country that doesn't care about the impact that they have with their business? Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I need to reanalyze these things. So I stopped buying from Amazon. And actually, sadly, I did buy something the other day, but only because I could not find it anywhere else. And that's the only reason why I did that. Everything else, like my regular groceries, the foods, the things that I consume, are all from local. And I've noticed I've had richer connections with people. Like the guy who owns the grocery store downstairs from me, he is from India, and he's like teaching me about Indian culture and foods, because I had no idea. And I knew I lived in an Indian community here in Montreal, but it's just amazing, the foods that they have, the culture, the languages, and like, I'm loving it. It's bringing a richness to my life that I would have never expected.
And you're bringing a richness to their life, and that's the whole thing. It's an exchange when you support in that way, and we care. You know, if you buy a coaching package for me, like, that's a huge deal. You know, it's not a big box, big business kind of thing. Everything that you contribute to me, I'm able to immediately recirculate into my community. So it's a very beautiful exchange.
Totally. Thank you for that. I like that as a last note.
Yeah, same. So much goodness, so much richness here.
Yeah. Well, it's been such a pleasure, Tia, and this was such a rich interview, and I really appreciate the pleasure of being able to chat with you. And I hope when all of this is over, I can come down to San Diego and visit you there.
Come on, come on down, and I'll be coming up to Montreal, because that's always been somewhere I want to be. It's an artist heaven. There's just an energy of artistry there. Yeah.
It's very rich, and there's a reason why now me, my sister, and my mom all live in Montreal.
Yep. It calls artists home. Hello, come on in. Yes.
Yes. Yes. It's just freezing cold here, but yeah, other than that, it's all good.
The summers are beautiful.
It's true. It's true.
But
Yeah.
to finish it off, I just want to say thank you for tuning in today. And this was, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add, Sarah?
No, thank you so much, Tia. Every time you speak, I feel like I need to take notes. And I do. I have a notebook of things you've said to me because you speak with such richness. Like I just feel so satisfied. Like I just read a book, or I don't know how to say it. Like when you go to an opera, I love going to operas or ballets or listening, or you go to a great concert or something. And you just feel so good when you like leave, or I don't know what it is. It's art. You speak in art and it satisfies me. So I don't know how to put that into words, but that's just the best that I can do. But every time you speak, I must take notes. And so I'm sure people in this audience will be taking notes as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend. You're so beautiful. And it was an honor to meet you, Joshua. And thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll see each other again soon.
Yes. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank